You ever dump loose change on a table without looking twice? Big mistake. Because one ordinary-looking buffalo nickel could be hiding a silent fortune right now, and most people are spending these coins like they're worthless. I'm serious. Collectors are fighting over certain buffalo nickels so aggressively that auction prices are exploding into insane territory. Nobody talks about these because the people who know keep them hidden. And today, CoinNova is exposing 4 of the most valuable and ultra-rare buffalo nickels ever found in circulation. These coins carry hidden wealth, real auction shock, and life-changing money that could literally be sitting in an old jar, a dusty drawer, or your pocket right now. So check your pocket now, and whatever you do, do not spend these coins. Because every coin in this video gets rarer, scarier, and dramatically more valuable. And the final buffalo nickel changes everything. The scary part about the 1934D buffalo nickel is that most people would ignore it instantly. They'd see the worn surface, the brown spots, the darker color, maybe even the uneven toning, and toss it into spare change without another thought. That's exactly why this coin became one of the most dangerous hidden treasures in American coin collecting. The average person sees an old nickel. Serious collectors see silent fortune. And once you understand what happened in America during 1934, this coin starts feeling completely different. The United States was still trapped under the crushing pressure of the Great Depression. Families were struggling to survive. Jobs were disappearing. Banks had collapsed only a short time earlier. Fear was everywhere. Americans weren't preserving coins carefully during this period because survival mattered more than collecting. Coins moved hard through circulation, shoved across counters, dropped into cash drawers, passed through exhausted hands during one of the most financially painful periods in U.S. history. That pressure changed everything for buffalo nickels. The Denver Mint was producing coins during an era when heavy use, economic strain, and production stress created massive wear on dies and uneven strikes. Mint workers weren't thinking about collectors decades later. They were focused on keeping coin production moving during uncertain times. And because buffalo nickels already had one of the most difficult designs in U.S. history to strike properly, many pieces from this era came out with weakness, softness, or fast deterioration. But when a 1934 buffalo nickel from Denver survives today in very fine condition, with strong remaining detail and original surfaces, collectors lose their minds over it. Especially when it carries that famous little D mint mark. That tiny letter changes everything. Most people miss this. Buffalo nickels, minted in Denver, developed an obsession-level following because many surviving examples were heavily worn down after decades in circulation. Finding one with strong, visible detail, natural aging, and original untouched surfaces is becoming harder every single year. And the coin we're talking about today isn't just rare, it carries the exact look collectors crave. Those brown spots, that darker antique surface, that uneven old coloration. To beginners, it looks dirty. To advanced collectors, it can signal originality. And originality is where serious money lives. The moment somebody cleans a buffalo nickel, the damage is usually permanent. The natural surface gets destroyed. The texture changes. The aging pattern disappears. Under bright light, cleaned coins often show unnatural shine, hairline scratches, or stripped surfaces that experienced collectors can detect almost instantly. One bad cleaning can wipe out enormous value forever. That's why professional grading is critical. A certified grading company doesn't just confirm authenticity, it protects the coin's reputation in the collector market. When bidders know a buffalo nickel has original surfaces and stable condition, auction behavior becomes aggressive fast. Quiet at first, then tense, then suddenly two collectors are battling each other because neither wants to lose the coin. This is not fiction. The 1934D Buffalo nickel has created real auction shock because surviving high-quality examples are disappearing into long-term collections. Many owners are refusing to sell. Others are holding these coins as long-term hidden wealth because demand keeps climbing while supply keeps shrinking. And once you hold one in your hand, you understand why. The Buffalo nickel already has one of the most iconic designs in American history. On the obverse, the front, you see the powerful Native American portrait staring outward with intense realism. The facial structure combines features inspired by multiple Native American leaders, creating a design that feels raw, proud, and deeply American. Across the upper edge appears the word liberty, while the year 1934 sits clearly near the shoulder area. And tucked below the denomination side is the small Denver mint mark, the famous D collectors obsess over. Flip the coin over, and the reverse design becomes even more unforgettable. An enormous American bison stands on raised ground with intimidating strength. Most people casually call it a buffalo, even though the design was inspired by a bison connected to early American zoological history. Along the top edge appears United States of America. Beneath that sits the powerful phrase, E pluribus unum. At the bottom, the denomination reads 5 cents. That design wasn't easy to manufacture. In fact, buffalo nickels became notorious for rapid wear because the raised details would flatten quickly in circulation. Dates often faded. Horn details vanished. The buffalo's shoulder lost texture. Many surviving examples became nearly unreadable after years of use. That's why collectors pay such close attention to visible hair detail, facial contours, feather sharpness, horn clarity, and rim definition. Every tiny detail matters. Even the texture around the fields can change auction value dramatically. The coin itself has a solid, compact feel that collectors instantly recognize. It weighs approximately 5 grams and carries a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Its diameter measures around 21.2 millimeters with a thickness near 1.95 millimeters. The girth and edge profile create that unmistakable buffalo nickel feel. Sturdy, dense, historic. When you hold an authentic example, especially one with darker original toning and old circulation character, it almost feels like holding a surviving piece of Depression-era America itself. And that emotional connection is exactly why collectors become obsessed. This coin doesn't just represent money, it represents survival, history, scarcity, American hardship. That emotional weight creates intense collector demand because buyers know they're not simply purchasing metal, they're securing a disappearing artifact from one of the toughest periods in U.S. history. Now here's where things become even more dangerous for ordinary people. Many 1934D Buffalo nickels are still sitting unnoticed in old family collections, inherited jars, antique boxes, and forgotten drawers. Some people inherited them decades ago and never checked the mint mark. Others cleaned them accidentally, thinking they were making the coin better, and some still spend them without realizing they're throwing away hidden wealth. Do not spend this coin. And if you ever find one, never polish it, never scrub it, and never attempt to brighten the surface. That dark look may actually be protecting enormous value. Professional collectors often prefer coins with stable natural toning because it signals authenticity and originality. Those brown spots and antique surfaces tell a story. They show the coin survived decades naturally. Artificially cleaned coins lose that emotional character instantly. What makes this even more intense is how competitive the market has become recently. Serious Buffalo nickel collectors are constantly hunting for strong examples with original detail because registry competition keeps getting fiercer. Collectors want the best surfaces, the best eye appeal, the strongest remaining detail. And when two determined buyers target the same coin at auction, prices can explode beyond expectations. That's exactly how examples of the 1934D Buffalo nickel have reached astonishing levels, approaching today's reported auction market value of around $363,000 for elite examples connected to exceptional preservation and collector demand. Think about that for a second. A 5-cent coin, a tiny piece of metal most people would ignore, now connected to life-changing money. That's why patience matters so much in coin collecting. The people building real wealth from rare coins are usually the ones who pay attention to details others ignore. They study mint marks carefully. They protect original surfaces. They avoid cleaning mistakes. And most importantly, they don't rush. Because sometimes the ugliest-looking coin in the jar becomes the biggest treasure in the room. And the 1934D Buffalo nickel proves that perfectly, especially when the surfaces remain untouched and the details survive stronger than expected. One small detail collectors watch closely is the buffalo horn. If that horn remains visible and separated clearly from the head area, excitement rises immediately. Feather detail on the Native American portrait matters too. Even rim sharpness can affect bidding behavior dramatically. This is why grading becomes critical. Tiny differences can mean massive swings in value. Most people never notice those things. Collectors notice everything. And right now, demand for original Buffalo nickels is creating serious pressure across the market because more collectors are entering the hobby while fewer quality coins remain available. Every year, damaged examples increase. Cleaned coins increase. Altered coins increase. But naturally preserved survivors, those become harder to find. That shrinking supply is exactly why some collectors quietly hold these coins for years without selling. They believe the future value could become even more shocking. And honestly, they might be right. But what comes next is even bigger. Because the next Buffalo nickel on this list carries a story so unbelievable. Some collectors literally check every nickel they receive, hoping to find one. And if you thought the 1934D was dangerous to ignore, wait until you see the next coin people are accidentally spending every single day. Next up, most people would spend this Buffalo nickel without even slowing down. That's the terrifying part. A scratched-up, gray-looking 5-cent coin from 1920 doesn't exactly scream hidden fortune. It looks tired, worn, forgotten. And that's exactly why this coin became one of the most dangerous silent treasures in American coin collecting. Because while ordinary people overlook it, serious collectors stop breathing when they see that tiny Denver mint mark, especially when the date reads 1920. That year mattered more than most people realize. America was entering a strange and unstable transition after World War I. The country was trying to recover from massive economic shifts, industrial pressure, labor unrest, and inflation spikes that hit ordinary Americans hard. Businesses were changing fast. Money was moving aggressively through circulation. And coins weren't treated like collectibles back then. They were tools for survival, commerce, and daily struggle. That brutal circulation history is exactly what makes the 1920D Buffalo nickel so difficult to find today in collectible condition. Most were destroyed slowly over time, worn flat, damaged, lost, spent endlessly through decades of American history. And yet somehow, a few survived. Not many, and definitely not easily. The Denver Mint already faced enormous production pressure during the Buffalo nickel era because this design was notoriously difficult to strike properly. The raised surfaces wore down fast, especially on heavily circulated examples. Dates disappeared. Buffalo horns faded. Facial details flattened. Even the rims could melt into the edges after years of use. So, when collectors find a 1920D Buffalo nickel today, with visible details still remaining, even in almost fine condition, the obsession begins instantly. Because survival alone is impressive. But originality? That changes everything. The coin we're talking about today carries grey scratches and darker circulation character that many inexperienced people misunderstand completely. Beginners sometimes think scratches automatically destroy interest, but advanced collectors often look deeper than surface damage. They study whether the coin still carries natural aging, untouched metal texture, original toning, and honest circulation wear from its era. And honest wear tells a story collectors become emotionally attached to. This isn't some shiny modern coin sitting untouched in plastic from the day it was made. This Buffalo nickel survived over a century of American life. Imagine where it traveled. Old train stations, Depression-era stores, cigarette counters. Wartime America. Pocket change passed through thousands of hands. Every mark on the surface whispers history. That emotional connection drives collector demand higher every year. And the 1920D has become especially difficult because so many examples disappeared permanently through circulation abuse. Now here's where people make a devastating mistake. They try to clean the coin. Never do that. Seriously, never clean a Buffalo nickel. One of the fastest ways to destroy collector value is by scrubbing, polishing, dipping, or attempting to improve the surface. The moment original texture disappears, experienced collectors notice immediately. Artificial shine looks wrong. Hairline cleaning scratches appear under light. The coin loses authenticity in the eyes of the market. And once that originality is gone, it usually never comes back. That's why professional grading is absolutely critical for coins like this. A grading company doesn't just assign a condition level. It confirms authenticity, surface quality, originality, and market confidence. And confidence is what creates auction wars. This is not fiction. When a properly graded 1920D Buffalo nickel enters a serious auction environment, collectors become intensely competitive. Sometimes bidding starts quietly, calm, controlled. Then one collector pushes harder, another refuses to back down. Suddenly the price jumps rapidly because both buyers understand how rare truly original survivors have become. And the market keeps getting tighter. Collectors are holding these coins longer than before. Many don't want to sell because they believe supply is shrinking faster than demand. Every year more Buffalo nickels become damaged, cleaned, altered, or lost. Meanwhile, collector obsession keeps growing. That imbalance creates serious money. And this specific coin carries all the ingredients collectors chase. The design alone is legendary. On the front of the coin, the obverse, you see the powerful Native American portrait facing right. The expression feels strong, weathered, and deeply human. The word liberty appears near the upper right edge, while the date 1920 sits lower along the shoulder area. And beneath the denomination side on the reverse sits the tiny D mint mark from Denver, the detail that changes this coin from ordinary to potentially life-changing. Flip it over, and the reverse design becomes unforgettable. A massive American bison stands proudly across the center of the coin, carrying incredible visual power even after decades of circulation wear. Along the top edge reads, United States of America. Below that sits E pluribus unum. Near the bottom, the denomination 5 cents appears boldly across the raised mound area. Collectors examine every tiny detail here. How visible is the horn? Can the tail still be identified? How much separation remains in the fur texture? Are the lettering edges sharp or weak? Does the rim remain visible? Most people never think about these things. Collectors obsess over them because tiny surviving details dramatically affect emotional appeal and auction behavior. The physical structure of the coin also matters more than people realize. The 1920D Buffalo nickel weighs approximately 5 grams and carries a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Its diameter measures about 21.2 millimeters with thickness close to 1.95 millimeters. The girth and edge profile create that heavy, compact feel Buffalo nickels are famous for. And when you hold one with genuine age and circulation character, it feels different from modern coins immediately. The darker, gray appearance. The soft, worn texture. The antique surface. The subtle scratches earned through decades of real use. All of it combines into something collectors find almost impossible to resist. Especially because the Buffalo nickel series already holds legendary status in American coin collecting. Many collectors grew up hearing stories about these coins from parents or grandparents. Others remember finding one unexpectedly in change years ago. That nostalgia creates emotional demand beyond simple rarity. People don't just want Buffalo nickels because they're rare. They want them because they represent a disappearing piece of old America. And the 1920D represents one of the toughest years to find with strong surviving character. Now pay attention to this detail because most people miss it completely. Gray scratches on older Buffalo nickels can sometimes signal long-term honest circulation instead of modern damage. Serious collectors study whether those marks blend naturally into the coin's age and surface texture. If the scratches appear old and consistent with decades of handling, the coin may still hold powerful collector appeal. That's why proper authentication matters so much. Never assume a worn coin is worthless. Some of the most valuable hidden treasures in American coin collecting look unimpressive at first glance. In fact, that's part of the danger. People accidentally spend these coins every single year because they mistake age for damage. Meanwhile, collectors quietly search through estate sales, old jars, inherited boxes, flea markets, and forgotten collections, hoping to uncover untouched Buffalo nickels before someone else finds them first. Because once a strong original 1920D appears on the market, the attention becomes intense, especially if the coin still carries authentic surfaces and visible detail. Today, examples connected to elite collector demand and strong preservation levels have reached astonishing auction values approaching $378,000. For a nickel, think about how insane that sounds. 5 cents becoming serious money, powerful enough to change someone's entire financial future. That's hidden wealth. That's silent fortune. And most people walk right past it without realizing what they're holding. But experienced collectors understand something ordinary people don't. Scarcity gets more dangerous over time. Every surviving original buffalo nickel matters more today than it did years ago because the collector base keeps expanding while quality supply keeps shrinking. The best examples disappear into private collections. Some are locked inside vaults for decades. Others are passed through families like heirlooms because owners know they may never find another one like it again. And patience is where wealth forms in this hobby. Collectors who rush usually lose. The smartest buyers study surfaces carefully, protect originality, and wait for the right opportunity instead of chasing cleaned or damaged examples emotionally. That patience often creates long-term gains far beyond what casual collectors expect. So if you ever find a 1920 buffalo nickel with a Denver mint mark, stop immediately. Check the surface carefully. Look at the date. Study the horn detail. Examine the lettering. And whatever you do, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. And do not assume scratches automatically mean worthless. Because one overlooked buffalo nickel could be carrying a hidden fortune, people accidentally lose every day. And what comes next might be even more unbelievable. Because the next buffalo nickel on this list is surrounded by collector fear, extreme rarity, and one tiny detail so important. Missing, it could cost someone a fortune without them ever realizing it. Next up, the terrifying thing about the 1917 buffalo nickel is that people trust it too easily. There's no flashy gold color, no giant silver shine, no dramatic size. Just an old gray 5-cent coin most people would ignore without a second thought. And that's exactly why this coin became one of the most dangerous hidden treasures in American coin collecting. Because while ordinary people overlook it completely, experienced collectors instantly recognize something special the moment they see that 1917 date without a mint mark. And the missing mint mark is where the obsession begins. Most people assume no mint mark means common. That assumption has cost people fortunes. The Buffalo Nickel series was already difficult to preserve from the beginning, but the 1917 Philadelphia issue carries a unique emotional pressure inside the collector world because it came from a moment when America itself was changing rapidly. The United States was entering one of the most intense transitions in modern history. World War I tensions were escalating. Industrial production was exploding. National uncertainty was growing. Factories were under pressure. Money moved aggressively through the economy. And coins like this were never meant to survive beautifully. They were built for circulation. Hard circulation. The Philadelphia Mint pushed massive coin production during this period because commerce was expanding quickly, and Buffalo nickels moved constantly through daily American life. Pocket change wasn't saved carefully. In 1917, it was used until it practically collapsed. Workers carried these nickels in rough pockets. Shopkeepers stacked them endlessly. Machines scratched them. Counters scraped them. Time slowly erased them. That's why extra-fine survivors today feel almost unreal, especially with original grey surfaces still intact. The moment collectors encounter a 1917 Buffalo nickel with that soft, antique grey shade and unusually strong remaining detail, the atmosphere changes immediately. Because now they're looking at something most people never preserved properly. Something rare survived, and survival creates obsession. This is not fiction. Collectors have spent years chasing original 1917 Buffalo nickels because the design itself wore down brutally fast in circulation. Dates vanished easily. Feather lines disappeared. Buffalo fur flattened. Horn detail faded into nothing. Even strong examples often suffered from weak strikes or rough handling during their early years. But an extra fine example changes the emotional reaction completely. Now collectors start focusing intensely on every surviving feature. How sharp is the Native American profile? Can individual feather details still be seen? How strong are the buffalo's shoulder lines? Does the horn remain separated clearly? How natural is the surface texture? Is the gray toning original? Those tiny details create enormous differences in collector demand. And the gray shade on this coin matters more than most people realize. To beginners, darker gray surfaces sometimes look old or dirty. But advanced collectors often love naturally aged buffalo nickels because the original toning tells a story of untouched survival. Artificially bright coins immediately raise suspicion. Cleaned surfaces lose depth. Natural texture disappears. The coin begins looking lifeless. That's why cleaning a buffalo nickel can become a financial disaster. Never clean this coin. Never polish it. Never scrub the surface trying to make it look better. Because originality is where serious money lives. The collector market has become extremely aggressive about untouched surfaces, especially for early buffalo nickels from the 1910s. Professional buyers study coins under magnification, searching for signs of originality. Once harsh cleaning damages the natural texture, experienced collectors often walk away instantly. And that changes auction behavior dramatically. Original coins attract emotional bidding. Cleaned coins lose trust. That trust difference can become enormous in the rare coin market. The 1917 Buffalo nickel without a mint mark came from the Philadelphia Mint, which means no small identifying letter appears beneath the denomination on the reverse side. And strangely enough, that missing mark creates enormous fascination among collectors because Philadelphia buffalo nickels from this era developed their own identity inside the hobby, especially in extra-fine condition. Because finding one with surviving detail and attractive original surfaces becomes increasingly difficult every single year. Most people miss this completely. Buffalo nickels were not easy coins to preserve. The design created high points that wore rapidly under normal use. Even slight circulation could soften critical details quickly. And since these coins circulated heavily for decades, countless examples were eventually worn nearly flat. That's why this surviving 1917 piece feels so important. It escaped destruction. Barely. The design itself remains one of the most iconic creations in American coin history. On the obverse, the front, the Native American portrait dominates the coin with intense realism and emotional strength. The word liberty curves along the upper right edge, while the date 1917 appears near the lower shoulder area. The facial features carry deep character, especially when extra-fine detail remains visible after more than a century. Flip the coin over, and the reverse reveals the legendary American bison standing proudly across the center. Along the upper rim appears United States of America, while E pluribus unum rests above the buffalo itself. At the bottom, the denomination 5 cents stretches across the raised ground beneath the animal. Collectors study every inch of this design obsessively. They inspect the buffalo's horn, the tail, the eye detail, the fur texture, the lettering sharpness. Even the rim strength matters. Because with buffalo nickels, tiny surviving details separate ordinary examples from serious collector targets. And once auction-level collectors identify a strong original 1917 example, competition becomes intense fast. Quiet at first, then aggressive, then emotional. Because experienced buyers understand how few properly preserved examples remain available today. The physical feel of the coin adds another layer collectors love. The buffalo nickel weighs approximately 5 grams and carries a metal composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Its diameter measures roughly 21.2 millimeters with a thickness around 1.95 millimeters. The girth gives it a dense, compact feel that immediately separates it from lighter modern coins. And when combined with authentic gray aging, the coin almost feels alive with history. That emotional connection matters enormously inside the collector world. People don't just buy buffalo nickels because they're rare. They buy them because these coins represent old America itself. Frontier imagery, industrial growth, economic struggle, national transformation. The Buffalo Nickel series carries emotion modern coins simply cannot replicate. And the 1917 issue sits inside one of the most historically powerful periods of the entire series. Now here's where things become even more dangerous for ordinary people. Some 1917 Buffalo Nickels are still hiding in circulation groups, inherited collections, estate boxes, and forgotten jars because many people cannot identify the difference between ordinary worn nickels and genuinely important survivors. That mistake keeps happening every year. People spend them accidentally. They clean them accidentally. Or worse, they ignore them completely. Meanwhile, serious collectors continue hunting relentlessly for original examples with attractive surfaces and strong detail because demand keeps rising while supply keeps shrinking. That imbalance creates silent pressure across the market. And pressure creates value, especially when collectors begin holding instead of selling. Many advanced Buffalo Nickel collectors refuse to release strong original coins because replacing them later may become nearly impossible. The market has become extremely competitive for untouched examples with honest surfaces and stable eye appeal. That's exactly why elite examples tied to exceptional preservation and collector demand have approached astonishing market values around $379,000. For a 5-cent coin, a coin most people would never even look at twice. That's hidden wealth hiding in plain sight. And honestly, the scariest part is how easy these coins are to miss. The gray shade makes them blend into ordinary change. The worn appearance tricks inexperienced eyes. The missing mint mark confuses beginners into assuming common. But advanced collectors know the truth. Condition changes everything. Originality changes everything. And survival changes everything. So if you ever come across a 1917 Buffalo Nickel, stop immediately before doing anything else. Check the date carefully. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the horn detail. Examine the surfaces under light. And whatever you do, do not clean the coin. Professional grading is critical because authentication and surface evaluation can completely change collector interest and market behavior. One tiny difference in originality or detail can mean the difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing opportunity. This detail changes everything. Because hidden fortune rarely looks obvious. Sometimes it looks old, gray, scratched, forgotten. And that's exactly why people lose these treasures every single day without realizing what they had. But the next coin on this list is even more shocking. Collectors call it one of the most emotionally intense Buffalo Nickels ever chased. And one specific detail on that coin has triggered unbelievable auction battles that still leave collectors talking years later. Next up, the most dangerous coins are usually the ones people trust the least. And the 1927 Buffalo Nickel is a perfect example of that trap. Most people see the brown spots, the darker aging, the worn texture, maybe a few uneven surfaces, and instantly assume the coin is damaged or worthless. Then they spend it, toss it into a jar, forget about it completely. Meanwhile, collectors across America are desperately hunting for original 1,927 buffalo nickels because they know something ordinary people don't. Those ugly brown spots might actually be hiding a silent fortune. And once you understand why this coin became so important, you'll never look at old nickels the same way again. The year 1927 arrived during one of the strangest periods in American history. The country looked prosperous on the surface. Factories were booming. Cities were growing. Jazz culture exploded across the nation. But underneath all that excitement, economic instability was quietly building. Massive financial imbalance was spreading behind the scenes, even before the Great Depression officially arrived. And coins from this period lived hard lives. Buffalo nickels moved through constant circulation during the late 1920s because Americans relied heavily on physical cash for everyday transactions. These coins weren't being protected by collectors at the time. Nobody imagined ordinary pocket change would someday become hidden wealth worth life-changing money. So they circulated aggressively, dropped on store counters, stuffed into pockets, rubbed against keys, thrown into registers, passed through thousands of hands. That punishment destroyed countless buffalo nickels permanently, especially the 1927 issue from Philadelphia without a mint mark. Because buffalo nickels already had one major problem from the beginning. The design wore down incredibly fast. The raised details flattened easily under circulation pressure. Dates faded. Feather details softened. Buffalo horns disappeared. Even coins only lightly used could lose important design sharpness quickly. That's why surviving very fine examples today create intense collector obsession, especially when they still carry original surfaces and natural aging. The brown spots on this coin are one of the biggest reasons experienced collectors stop and pay attention. Beginners often misunderstand toning completely. They think old spots automatically mean damage, but advanced collectors know that naturally aged buffalo nickels frequently develop darkened areas, antique shading, or uneven color patterns over decades of storage and circulation. And originality matters more than brightness. This is where people make a massive mistake. They clean the coin. Never do that. Seriously, never attempt to polish, scrub, or brighten a buffalo nickel. The moment you destroy the original surface, the collector market changes instantly. Artificial shine looks unnatural. Harsh cleaning creates tiny scratches visible under light. The coin loses its historical texture and emotional appeal. And emotional appeal is everything in high-end coin collecting. Because collectors are not just buying metal. They're buying survival, history, authenticity, a connection to another era of America. That emotional connection becomes incredibly powerful with buffalo nickels because the design itself feels alive. On the obverse, the front of the coin, the Native American portrait carries deep realism and strength. The facial features feel weathered and human, almost as if the coin itself absorbed decades of American history. Along the upper edge appears the word liberty, while the date 1927 sits near the lower shoulder area. And because this coin came from Philadelphia, there's no mint mark. Most people miss how important that detail can become. Collectors often separate buffalo nickels into mint-specific categories because different mint locations produced coins with different strike quality, survival rates, and collector appeal. The no mint mark Philadelphia issues developed their own following over time, especially when original examples survive with attractive aging and stronger detail. Flip the coin over, and the reverse design becomes instantly recognizable. A massive American bison stands powerfully across the center, creating one of the boldest designs ever placed on U.S. coin edge. Across the top edge reads United States of America. Just beneath appears E pluribus unum. At the bottom, the denomination 5 cents stretches prominently across the raised ground beneath the buffalo. Collectors analyze every tiny feature obsessively. How visible is the horn? Can the eye still be seen clearly? How much fur texture survived? Are the rims strong? Do the brown spots appear natural? Is the surface untouched? Every small detail affects collector emotion and auction intensity. An auction behavior surrounding original buffalo nickels has become extremely competitive in recent years. This is not fiction. Serious collectors quietly battle over strong surviving examples because quality supply keeps shrinking. More people enter the hobby every year searching for original buffalo nickels, but fewer untouched examples remain available. Many surviving coins were cleaned decades ago by owners trying to improve them. Others were damaged through rough handling or improper storage. But naturally preserved survivors, those are becoming increasingly difficult to replace, especially in very fine condition. The physical feel of the 1927 buffalo nickel also adds to its collector appeal. The coin weighs approximately 5 grams and contains a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Its diameter measures roughly 21.2 millimeters, with thickness around 1.95 millimeters. The girth and edge structure create that dense, solid buffalo nickel feel collectors instantly recognize. And when combined with authentic aging and natural brown toning, the coin almost feels like a surviving artifact from another world. That emotional power matters enormously, because collectors remember their first buffalo nickel. Some found one in a grandparent's collection. Others discovered one unexpectedly in change years ago. Many became obsessed immediately because buffalo nickels look completely different from modern American coins. They feel older, wilder, more historical, more personal. And the 1927 issue carries extra fascination because it existed right before one of the biggest financial collapses in American history. That historical pressure adds emotional weight. People see these coins as survivors from a vanished America. Now here's the scary part most people never realize. Some of these coins are still hiding in ordinary places. Old drawers, coin jars, family collections, estate boxes, forgotten envelopes. And because the coin lacks flashy silver shine or obvious beauty, people accidentally ignore them every single year. That's how hidden wealth disappears. Quietly, without attention, without warning. Meanwhile, collectors keep searching aggressively because they know original buffalo nickels are becoming harder to locate with every passing decade. Some advanced buyers refuse to sell their best examples at all because replacing them later may become impossible or dramatically more expensive. That creates serious market pressure. Demand rises. Supply shrinks. Auction competition intensifies. And suddenly, a 5-cent coin starts turning into real money. Life-changing money. Examples tied to elite collector demand and exceptional preservation levels have reached astonishing market values approaching $350,000. For a buffalo nickel, most people would barely notice. That's the definition of silent fortune. And the craziest part is how ordinary these coins still look to the average person. The brown spots scare people away. The darker color looks unimportant. The worn surfaces seem common. But experienced collectors understand the truth. Originality creates value. Natural toning creates demand. And untouched surfaces create emotional bidding wars. So if you ever find a 1927 buffalo nickel without a mint mark, stop immediately before doing anything careless. Check the horn detail carefully. Study the lettering. Examine the surfaces under light. Look closely at the date. And whatever you do not spend this coin. Never clean it, never polish it, and never assume ugly means worthless. Because some of the greatest hidden treasures in American coin collecting look exactly like coins people throw away every day. Professional grading is critical because authentication, surface analysis, and condition verification can completely change how collectors respond to a buffalo nickel. One tiny difference in originality can mean the difference between an overlooked coin and a serious auction target. And patience matters too. The smartest collectors rarely rush. They study carefully. They protect surfaces. They wait for the right buyer, the right market, and the right opportunity. That patience is exactly how hidden wealth becomes real wealth over time. So before you ignore another old nickel again, remember this. A scratched, spotted, worn buffalo nickel from 1927 could be carrying a silent fortune people accidentally lose every single day. And that's what makes these coins so dangerous to ignore.